2024 safety tips for men and some women. I say men because 100% of the tourists that were killed in 2024 were men. Don't carry or flash wads of cash. The problem is that a lot of tourists that come down here, they take out money in wads, right? They go to the ATM machine and they're taking out money for the whole week or for the whole month even. And that can be what we call giving papaya. It looks delicious to a thief, right? Most places here nowadays, they take cards. You could even pay with Google Pay and Apple Pay. So all of that exists. There's no need to be carrying around wads of cash. Okay, so the next tip is don't look like a tourist. In your opinion, what would a tourist look like and what you shouldn't be wearing in Medellin to not look like a tourist? I'll let you guys answer that one. Tourist starter kit, light skin, baseball cap, belt, pouch, or shoulder bag, Ray-Ban sunglasses, flip-flops, and shorts. I think the dead giveaway is usually the flip-flops and the shorts. Flip-flops are for anywhere on the coast here too. Like you could go to Cartagena and be in flip-flops and you're fine. Santa Marta, flip-flops are fine. Medellin has no beach. All right, so the next tip is to take Ubers, bro. Take Ubers, guys. If you're going to be out here and you're new to Medellin, or even if you're not new to Medellin, the price of Uber is so cheap that why are you going to cheap out on getting an Uber and go with a street taxi that might rob you or just you won't have a pleasant experience? I've never been robbed, been here 14 years, never been held up by a taxi or anything. I've heard of people getting robbed, even locals, by taxis. It's never happened to me, but I also avoid going in taxis because I hate the experience of a taxi. They drive like shit. A lot of them are never clean. They bad smells. They don't keep them up very well. I'd rather just get an Uber Comfort. I don't know. I'm a bougie bitch. The next tip is don't leave your stuff lying around. I know it sounds like common sense, but if you're coming to Medellin in 2024, don't leave your stuff unattended, even if it's just for a second. People are sly and they work in groups, they work in teams. When they really want to rob something from someone, for example, like on the metro or at malls, or etc. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to happen 100% of the time, but a lot of the times where people leave something unattended, it might get taken because someone was watching what you have, right? Okay, the next tip for 2024 safety in Medellin, I would recommend you not to go out alone. Well, this is a great example of why women are safer here, because women already know this. It's very rare that you'll see a solo female traveler going out alone to parqueyeras to go drink and pick up hookers. But you will see males doing that, and those are the guys that are most vulnerable. So if you're a guy and you're coming out here, maybe not going even to parqueyeras to pick up hookers or whatever, but let's say you're going out for the night and you're going to La 70, maybe even Provenza, go out with people, go out with groups, start networking with people right now. You could do that even when you're not in Medellin. There's a group for everything on MDE community, which are WhatsApp groups, or on Facebook. There's a community for pretty much everything to do out here. There's no reason for you to go out solo. Okay, the next tip is a very important one. Don't be the tough guy. This is not Las Vegas. This is not United States. This is not Bali, where if you have steroids and you've got a tank top on and you're pumped up and you've got tattoos, that doesn't intimidate anybody here. People don't get in altercations because that you might not get shot and killed today, but the person that you messed with might come back and do it. So just avoid it as a whole. Don't be the tough guy. The next tip is don't wear gold or expensive watches when you go out. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Leave your expensive shit at home. You don't need chains here. People are not impressed by your big gold chains and your Rolex, right? That if I see someone like that, and my Colombian friend sees someone like that, would be like, yo, this man, he's got a death wish or what? It's not recommended. The next tip is don't get blackout drunk. If you come to Colombia and you're coming to party and you're going to have drinks, just make sure to don't overdo it, man. Have self-control. Don't get blackout drunk because you never know what can happen to you after that, and you won't know until the next day when you sober up. Don't get crazy with the drinks. Don't get crazy with the drugs, even though they've decriminalized them. So I can't say, don't come down here and do that. People come down here and indulge in that, but just know that if you go crazy with it, you run the risk of getting robbed or even worse, overdosed on scopolamine if you get involved with the wrong people. Make sure that you're using your common sense, man. I feel like I'm talking to like children here. The number 4 tip is to learn some Spanish. That can literally make your trip go from, it was all right, or, oh, I hated it, 2, wow, this trip was awesome. Even if it's just the basics, like to order food, to order a drink at the bar, to say hello to someone and say goodbye to someone, to ask them where they're from, how they're doing. Why? Because in Medellin, less than 4% of the people speak English. Even in the tourist areas, if you go to a restaurant that many tourists and foreigners frequent, most of the waiters and staff will not speak English. So make it easier on yourself and not having to use Google Translate and handing the phone back and forth or showing a screen. Learn some Spanish. When you start learning the language, then you start understanding the culture a little bit. That is the best way to stay safe. The number 3 tip is don't fight back if you're getting robbed. Even if you don't see the object that they're holding under their shirt or under their sweater or whatever it is, don't resist. Just give up your stuff. It's not worth it because you don't know if he's bluffing or not, and you don't want to know. Losing a phone to me won't hurt. I can get a new one tomorrow if I want to. So I know that going out. So if something does happen, I would never resist. And that goes along with, not being the tough guy and not getting too drunk. Your inhibitions are lowered, and someone comes to you and robs you and you don't see the object that they're trying to hold you up with. You might want to fight back. And that can get you in trouble. So don't do that. The people that have been killed in 2023, a percentage of them were because they resisted a robbery. I would suggest not to do that anywhere in the world, but especially not here in Medellin. The number 2 piece of advice for safety for men and some women: if you use dating apps, use your head on your shoulders, not the one below the belt. I don't know what it is. I have my own theories, and here I'm going to say one, and it might be controversial, but whatever. A lot of the guys that are coming down here for sex are coming down here because, number 1, it's cheap. Number 2, they're sexless in the United States, so they're kind of borderline desperate. So when they come down here, any little young pretty thing that says hello to them and says, hola amor, hola bebé, ¿qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do, baby? They're starved for affection and attention from females that they get blinded. They've got the curtains up where they can't see the red flags, and then they get into a situation that could be deadly. When you see women on these dating apps, the first things that they type to you is, hola amor, hola bebé. That is not natural. That's not how women talk to men here in Colombia upon first meeting them. It's very rare, unless if you are an extremely good-looking guy. I've seen women fight over guys. But for us, the regular people, this does not happen. If it's not a regular occurrence in your country, that's not part of our culture here in Colombia. So if a woman like that starts talking to you like that, it's probably not real. Someone that got killed here in 2023 was someone that was led to a neighborhood in Robledo, and he was killed there, unfortunately, RIP. Him going out to Robledo from a Tinder date is like me being in Southern California. Let's say I'm in LA County in a very nice neighborhood like Brentwood, safe neighborhood, $1 million houses. That's kind of like the equivalent of being in El Poblado in the hills here, and getting on Tinder, swiping and hooking up with a girl, and then her telling you for you to go alone with her and her friend to her house in South Central LA, in Compton, in Watts, in some ghetto ass part of the city. What do you expect is going to happen, right? Like, that's the equivalent. And if you don't know Spanish, you don't know the culture, you don't know the lay of the land, 2 beautiful young girls inviting you over to their apartment is like you hit the jackpot. They're telling you to go to Robledo. You're like, oh, that sounds fine. How far is it? Oh, that's not far from Poblado. Boom. You're in the ghetto. Now you're getting extorted. It's tough, but hopefully we can learn from those mistakes. So the number 1 tip that I can give: don't invite or take anyone to your apartment, Airbnb, or hotel that you don't know. That's the number 1 tip that I can give to people coming to Medellin in 2024. I know it sounds weird to some of you that are probably watching this and are planning a trip to Medellin. Realize that a lot of the people that do travel, and when I say people, I'm talking about men, they come here for sex. And what happens is that they pick someone up on Tinder that is a paid person, or they pick someone up off the street and they bring them back right away. The date is at their house. Like, oh, let's meet up at your house for a couple drinks. That is the number 1 red flag. Just delete that. If anything, report it to the police. Now, if you're a tourist into Colombia, you should know this. This should be common knowledge that if you're coming here for sex tourism, you are at risk of getting drugged and robbed. I could just drop the mic right there.